Going to be interesting as you see some of the things clarify in the NFC, but Eagles are in the mix with everybody, and they just got to figure some things out, starting with the running game, obviously.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. John, it's a Football Friday in Eagle Land. My friend, how you doing this morning?
Doing pretty well. Get to another week, and then you get the bye, and then then it's time to hit that stretch run and try to play your best football at the right time. So, going to be interesting. As you see some of the things clarify in the NFC, but Eagles are in the mix with everybody, and they just got to figure some things out, starting with the running game. Obviously, we say that seems like every week. It's very bizarre. I can't explain it. I don't think anybody can explain it. Everybody's tried. I don't think anybody can explain it. And you kind of hope that things just click, and maybe Saquon against his old team, maybe it clicks, but we'll see.
He had a big game versus the New York Giants last year. I think that was the game where he almost set the record, and then he went to the bench, right? And Nick was like, you can get it if you want it. And he was like, let the young guys play. So, yeah, that was last year. So he did have a big game versus the New York Giants last year. This is a different football team, though. But, John, the reason I won't rule out a big run game today or Sunday is I didn't expect the pass game to get going versus Brian Flores and the Vikings. So I'm not going to rule out the run game get going versus any opponent, no matter how good their front is or their defensive line is.
Yeah, it's a crazy league. I mean, it really is. We talk about that. I mean, last night was an abject disaster. So if you look at it if you look at it, if you had the hindsight of that game, then you go, yeah, they might throw it. So I mean, things change quickly in this league when things are going poorly, especially for certain teams.
Herbert cooked the blitz last night too, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. I mean that's look, those Thursday night games are just awful, and it's a conflation of things. I was out on that game when it was 24-3, or I'm like, all right, I'm not going to watch this. But it was that kind of performance, and it all starts with the quarterback play. God bless Carson Wentz, man. But and that's when people talk about the impact of the quarterback position. I always say, well, who's the best player versus who has the largest impact? Who has the largest impact is always the quarterback. Always the quarterback. Good, great, bad, indifferent, terrible. It's always the quarterback. And when you see terrible quarterback play, you see the rest of the team just sink right in front of your eyes, like everything. It's like, oh, we stink. It's just human nature. And that's what you see when things are really bad. When things are really good, it's the opposite. It's like the tide lifting all boats. But yeah, but that was, bad quarterback play, short week on the road, going across. Like, you want to play Thursday night, and look what happened to the Eagles on Thursday night, and they're going up the Jersey Turnpike. You don't want to go halfway across the country. So they got blitzed, but from the Eagles standpoint, yeah, I mean, you ask me every week, what's the plan? Well, the plan last week was to run the football, and it toggled right away, and that's good coaching, basically, because you want to make those adjustments from series to series and really play to play. So you have to give the coaches a little bit credit when they go in with a plan. The plan is not envisioning, sort of developing like you want, and you toggle. That's good. That's very good. So until they get this running game going, that I think is going to be the plan every week, literally every week, to try to get it going. But if it's not working, at least they've proven that they're not going to bang their heads against the wall.
No doubt about it, John. Brandon Graham makes his return return this weekend for the first time. Do you think he's going to play?
Yeah, not necessarily, but if he does, they have a 2-week exemption, so he's not on the 53 yet.
I just don't know who are going to be the edge rushers.
Well, the same as last week. Aziz went down, so you pretty much narrowed it down to Jalix Hunt, Josh Uche, Patrick Johnson, and Jahad Campbell helping out. And the silver lining to that is that it enabled you to get Nakobe on the field, that linebacker, a little bit more. So they can get by another game doing that. But if they think Brandon can give him 15, 20 snaps, they'll activate him for the game. But that's all about this week and what they've seen and conditioning and all that kind of stuff. Now, he's been around for 16 years, so the retention stuff, which Vic mentioned, he's retaining everything. So I don't think that part of it's an issue. But the conditioning is a real part of the issue, and they have to make that decision if he's there and ready to help or if he needs the extra time.
We'll see what ends up happening there. John, what's the injury report as of yesterday and what you learned yesterday down at the NovaCare Complex? AJ didn't practice once again, and Cam Jurgens didn't practice once again. So it doesn't look like Cam will play. What's the update on AJ, though? I mean, you mentioned yesterday you still think he's going to play. No practices. What's the update?
Yeah, well, I was expecting him to be at least limited yesterday. So now it's a little bit more. Plus, the other part is they not activated, but they started the 21-day practice window for Darius Cooper late in the week. Now, normally when you start the 21-day windows for guys coming back from injured reserve, you do it right away on a Sunday, week Wednesday. That's what they did for Jacorian Bennett. Started the window. They didn't start Cooper's window until yesterday. Now, might mean nothing, but raised my antenna that said, why are you doing it a day late during the week? That's not typical mode of doing business. So maybe there's concern that AJ won't be able to go. Not that he can replace AJ Brown.
No, but you need bodies. Yeah.
Yeah, but you might need another body. So that'll be key to see if he's out there. I don't think if he's out there today, if he's not out there today, I don't think even AJ, you can play him with no practice during the week. But if he makes it out there today, they're probably, going to try to see, or at least take it up to game time, and make a decision there.
Did AJ speak at all this week or no?
No, he's hurt. So,
he's hurt. Yeah, so they don't have
doing rehab and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, you have to. So today's big day.
On AJ Brown, they're going to be coming. Don't worry.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. I think they're already there. What do you mean?
Yeah, they're there.
Oh yeah. Oh, undoubtedly because of his Instagram post.
Well, his Instagram, and then he doesn't speak, and now he's on.
Well, the speaking part of it that's common. If you're not practicing, you generally aren't.
I think people will tie it all together, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, people who don't know it's common, yeah, but I mean that's not meaningful. The other stuff is somewhat meaningful, but typically, if you're not injured, you're not practicing, you're not talking. Not 100%. Some guys, scroll through because they want to talk, but very rarely. So that part of it.
So you don't think there's any games being played with AJ right now? You think he's got an honest hamstring injury? Nothing to pique your eyes up at, or raise your eyebrows at.
No, he's definitely hurt. I mean, he's working on the side field with trainers. I mean, yeah, he's definitely hurt.
I'm just correcting the narrative because people come here for Eagles truth, and there's a lot of not Eagles truth out there.
Oh, I know. Yeah, no, he's definitely.
They're going to trade him, or he doesn't want to speak to the media, so he's not practicing, or whatever the case might be. So we got to see what happens there, and we'll see if AJ Brown plays. I guess today's report will give you a better indication, John, on whether he would play?
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't practice all week, they might even rule him out today if he's not, but if he is able to go out and do some things, then I still expect him to try. They'll, at the bare minimum, take it up to game time and make a decision on whether he can play. But those are tricky injuries. I said, when we were dealing with Quignon coming into last week, there's different grades of hamstring strains. And, if you go back to the summer, he hurt his hamstring and he was gearing up to come back against Cleveland in the joint practices. And he went a little bit too hard and had to scale it back again. So those are injuries, especially at those positions, that can aggravate if you push it too much. So those are tricky injuries, but I get the narratives. And yeah, he's working out on the side field with trainers and trying to rehab it. So, I mean, he's going above and beyond if he doesn't have a hamstring.
Yeah, no doubt. John, a couple other players spoke yesterday. I know you wrote something, or you wrote about the defensive comments from Reed Blankenship over on SI.com, where you do all your writing. Any takeaways from what the players had to say? I know Mailata said some interesting stuff yesterday about righting the ship and getting back on track and, playing with a little bit of vengeance because of how poorly he played last time. Any takeaways from the player comments yesterday as we prep for this Week 8 matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody was disappointed in the way things went up at MetLife Stadium, to say the least. Probably none more so than Jordan Mailata, as you mentioned. But, Jordan was very clear because he had said that, the old school Sixers fans know about, we owe you one, about owing the Giants one. He made it clear that was a personal belief. It's not a team wide type of thing. Just he thought he played poorly, and he didn't play that poorly, but he thought he played poorly. And that's not Nick's messaging or the team's messaging. That's just him saying it's personal for him. And he said, I hate to play like shit. And he thinks he played like shit. So it's personal for him. I think for the rest of the team, it's like, we didn't play the way we typically play. And that's what happens when you do that in the NFL, even against bad teams, because you give them some juice early and all of a sudden they start to gain some confidence. And all of a sudden you're in the dogfight. You make a big mistake and maybe a comeback is on the table, but you make that mistake, it goes the other way and the game's over. So I think it's they want to be more physical. They think they got pushed around a little bit by Cam Scattaboo.
Yeah, they did. I don't think they did. I think they know they did, John.
And so they want to get back to how they normally play. And I think if they do that, but I think this is also a game where you want to get off to a good start because you don't want to give them that confidence again. If you get off to that 2-score lead, you score a touchdown and a field goal, or, best case scenario, you score 2 touchdowns, then they're done. They're cooked. It's over. So I think getting off to a good start is paramount as well.
Yeah, no doubt. John, do you get the sense that the waters are steady in the organization right now? They're 1-2 in the last 3 games. They were coming off of 2 losses straight for the first time since 2023, and then they got a good win last week. So they got back in the win column, which is a good thing. But just what's the sense inside the organization, John? I remember last week you used the word vibes, and we had a funny show about you using the word vibes. How are the vibes in the locker room this week, just in terms of the approach and the, just the mentality of the players at this point?
I know that's probably more about me than them, but, because sometimes you get a feeling like I knew they were going to win out in Minnesota. I just knew they were going to win. I don't have that same feeling this week, but it's not a feeling of are they going to lose? It's more of business as usual. Like I think they overreact to losses just like the fan base does, because they have created these expectations for themselves.
Well, and they don't lose a lot. So to be
And
fair,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So I think they were mirroring the fan base in that, oh my God, we lost 2 games. This is a disaster. Um, and they really had to focus in, and you could sense they were really focused going into last week's game. Now I think it's more that they've steadied the ship and they think they're back to normal, but and I think they will be. I think they're going to win this game. But and the big test will come after the bye. Um, but yeah, I think this is just. I mean, this team hasn't won in Philadelphia since 2014. Obviously, that has nothing to do with the current Giants because they weren't around. I mean, they just don't win here. They haven't won for a long time because they've been a bad organization for a long time. And they still are. Little signs, little positivity here and there, but I'm sure if they won that game in Denver last week, it'd be a little bit more. But losing that game the way they lost that game, it probably pops in their head. Oh, here we go again. Um, so I think that loss hurt this game for them pretty dramatically from a mindset standpoint.
Yep, no doubt. I want to thank and welcome everybody for being here this morning. We got a great show planned. In a couple of minutes, we'll have Scott Grayson from Fox 29. He'll join the show this morning. We'll kind of break down or prepare for this Eagles-Giants Week 8 matchup with Scott Grayson. And then after Scott, in hour number 2, we will have a full breakdown of the game. We'll look at some of the key matchups to watch. And for any people that have super chats, we will take some super chats on a Football Friday. We'll also give you our predictions for the game as well. John, I want to ask you a question here about A.J. Brown. You've been somebody who has had an up close, I don't know about relationship with A.J. You've seen him firsthand. You've always been able to add good context when people are trying to figure out what A.J. Brown is saying. In your opinion, John, is it going too far right now? I don't want to say he's a locker room cancer because I don't believe he is at all. But I'm just saying the quarterback's at the podium and has to answer about it now. It's like, is it going too far? Do you think there's any reverberations of that in the locker room? How do you see kind of this saga with A.J. Brown right now and just your perspective on it?
Well, I think it has gone too far. I would never call that guy cancer in the locker room. He's just not viewed that way by his teammates. But I do think he creates unnecessary hurdles for himself and the team with the social media stuff. So, but again, I didn't grow up with that as part of my life. So, I mean, everybody from a certain age now, it's always been ingrained in them that social media is this big part of their life. And it generally creates more problems than it helps. From an athlete standpoint, from somebody from a high profile person standpoint, it's very valuable to get your own messaging out there without a filter if you want it. So there's a lot of positives to it as well. But I think you've seen it time and time again. It's been a consistent sort of trend where AJ says something, people take it a million different ways. It goes different ways where he didn't want it to go, and then he's got to scale it back. And this has been a repeating circumstance. And when he does talk, whenever he does talk, might be today, he's going to answer about what he tweeted this week, and I've already forgotten exactly. If you have the words in front of you, it was using me but not using something like that. Paraphrasing. He'll answer that, and they'll probably say similar things of, "I didn't mean it like this," and people took it like that. But that's the one thing where I do hold AJ accountable for. Well, there's millions of people are going to read that. And yes, some are going to take it in a negative direction. So there's an easy way to stem that tide, and that's don't do it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I was listening to a podcast, the podcast with Devontae Smith. He was on Terrion Arnold and Pat Surtain's podcast, and they legitimately asked him, John, what's next for you? You're a Heisman Trophy winner. You're on one of the winningest teams in pro football. You won a Super Bowl, and his without hesitation, it was Pro Bowls and All Pros. And they looked at him and were like, "You haven't had a Pro Bowl?" His two Alabama teammates, and Devontae Smith's like, "Nah, man, I haven't." So, like, I think people who dismiss that these receivers do want to be a part of the game plan. I know they want to win, but at the end of the day, they are individuals and they do have their own goals, their own aspirations, and they want to dominate and be remembered, as a great wide receiver. I heard Justin Jefferson last night, John, pre-game interview. This was a direct quote from Justin Jefferson. "I want to walk across the stage and get the Hall of Fame jacket and leave my legacy as one of the best wide receivers of all time." Now, I'm not saying that's the right mindset. I'm just saying to dismiss it as the human element of the game. Not saying you are, but I think a lot of people do, and they're just like, "Hey, you're winning." Sit down and that's not how they think, man. That's not how great receivers are ever going to think. Great players, really.
I say it all the time. You do not want receivers who don't want the football. Trust me.
Yeah, I believe.
You do not want that guy. Now, there are different stages to it, but even you bring up Jefferson, like there was a point in that game he showed his obvious frustration. It could be much worse.
When Wentz airmailed one right into the opposing team's arms.
I mean, it's a situation where, look, every great receiver is going to be upset when they don't have a vehicle that gets them the football. That's obvious. That part's obvious. Now, the Eagles don't have that. They just have a different style of playing that doesn't lend itself to high volume passing numbers week to week, but they've been very successful, so it's a little bit more hard to understand. But the bottom line is these guys want the football, and you don't want a receiver that doesn't want the football.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
It's like Ben Simmons.
I thought it was interesting because a lot of people dismiss that. They do care when they don't go to the Pro Bowl. They do care when they don't make an All-Pro. You know what I mean? They do care about.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I compare it to Ben Simmons in basketball. Look. And obviously went bad with Ben Simmons at the end here, but as his height, he was this great player making all-star teams and maybe one of the best defensive players and playmaker in this, and didn't like to shoot the ball. Like, you know how rare that is in the NBA, where you got a wing player that doesn't want to shoot? And bottom line, at the end of the day, there was a ceiling towards him because he didn't want to shoot the ball.
Right.
You don't want that.
Can't believe we're talking about Ben Simmons right now.
Well, I think it's a good comp. It
is. I like the comp too. I like the comp too.
You want somebody who wants the ball in their hands and takes the last shot, not give up a layup in a big game. You don't want that.
Yeah, no doubt.